The views expressed here are those of the authors and do not in any way represent the views of Sophia TV.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of Ladies First. I'm joined here by my panelists Fahmida, Sumaya, Nishat and myself.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'll call you whatever. Jumping straight into it, ladies. Women in leadership, a subject that I'm very passionate about, as you can tell. Is there a push to promote women in leadership roles in our community? Or is this something else that we feel that we have to do? Do we feel pressure that we have to be everything to everyone and now be in the limelight as well? How do we feel? Start with you,
Leaders at home.
Yeah, and that's enough. I was just going to say that's enough for me. Just being the leader at home. I'm actually a single parent and I have 2 children. So just leading the home, I feel it is quite enough for me. I also do work as well because I enjoy it. It's something that I want to do. But you know, to try and get involved even at a community level and organise, and lead and organise even a small community. I think women who do that as well as lead at home, I take my hats off to you ladies. I couldn't do it.
What do you think, Sumaya?
I think with leadership come responsibilities. If you agree to lead something, whether at home or outside the home, it brings up, responsibilities, and you have to be absolutely sure that you're able to fulfill those responsibilities.
But isn't it like in most cases we don't know until we get there? Not everybody wakes up and says, I want to be Prime Minister of a leading Western country, for example. Sometimes you are put in a position.
Talking about leading women in Western countries, it was just a thought that I came across that, Islamic countries, there's a lot of Islamic countries, not Western, that have
female leaders. Yes.
And having seen America just lose the presidential election, they have lost the female too.
Yeah.
So they've, the man has, I think, just because there are females in positions, in leadership positions in the West, doesn't mean that I think the West is very open to having them, because again, like America, they'd rather have the president they have now than a female.
Things are much more difficult for women in leadership roles, prominent roles. Let's take the example of MP Diane Abbott in a national newspaper in the last week or so. She's talked about how her staff don't allow her to go out alone in case she might be bullied or harassed. Is this a backlash? I didn't read the article in depth, but is that a backlash against the women in prominent positions?
I think she's a very she's an interesting character, and I think with that person, there are so many other things that they do, the reason why they don't want her to go out by herself. But I'm thinking that I think it's natural for women to be in leadership roles because of the reasons that you mentioned. We are sisters, we are daughters, we make decisions, we do things neat and tidy. A lot of the times we are very
scarily
aware,
efficient.
Yes, and we know when to back down and when to step up and do it in a subtle way. I think it's innate. I think it's not that you have to have a degree or you have to be, your face has to be on TV in order to lead. Just, I don't know, organising a school fete. How many organisations at schools or madrasas?
I think we're also very good multitaskers.
Or Islamic situations.
And let's not
do you see
forget,
women leading in the background but giving the credit to the the men? How many times?
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like we're happy to do it and we don't need to take the credit for it, but we do it. And I think it's natural.
The skills and qualities you listed in reference to women and what they can bring to the table. Let's not forget the economic crisis of 2008. How did we get there? It's the men.
Tell us.
It's the men.
Blame the whole economic crisis on the men for.
All the problems.
If we'd been in charge, I think we would have done a much better job at saving the world. But
yeah, see, so we have the skills. We've come to the conclusion that we have the skills. But we can take this one step further by actually flourishing these skills and actually getting women out there to find their voice and
their interests, exactly.
Their
what they want
interests,
to
exactly.
do.
And I think there's a wonderful initiative in America that started. I think you all know about the Women Mosque of America.
Yes.
What's it called?
The Women's Mosque of America. Yes, it's a female-led.
the female mosque in America.
I think it is really, really brilliant because you're bringing all women together from all walks of life. There's like no dress code, but you can come in here, you can get inspired. You will be given lectures from scholars,
different types of female scholars.
Yeah, scholars, and you know, see the and people can get inspired
I
and
think
actually
my
come
mosque
forward.
does that anyway. I don't think my mosque says that certain people cannot come to this mosque, and I don't. And the variety of speakers we have, female speakers that we have, you know, that
But
my mosque.
I feel people.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, but I feel that a girl without a hijab would not feel comfortable coming in.
And that was one of the reasons why the lady stated she wanted a female mosque, which wasn't about culture, how you dress, or it
or
was
there's a particular code.
I
exactly.
can go to my mosque where there are only ladies and take my hijab off.
But
and
that's
speak
your
from
mosque.
the-
I don't know if you know
I-
Joe
I-
blogs from the street with not knowing what your community or mosque is like would automatically feel
Yeah.
comfortable doing that.
Would
What
Jenny
if the
from the
person?
block want to go to your mosque? She might think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm
What
not
to-
Well,
what
then
to-
Jenny
I
should
have to
come
wear
visit
a
my
proper-
mosque.
I'll bring Jenny along.
Please.
What about John? What if John wants to come? You know, and that's an argument that brothers were saying. They were saying, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
When we said that we
Oh,
want a male-only mosque, women were saying, excuse me,
Yeah, what's
what's
wrong
going
with
on?
it? It's male.
Yeah, that there are mosques that are men and women. I mean, we don't mix with the opposite
so
gender in a mosque, do
So
we?
the female mosque in
don't know,
America
do we?
isn't really a mosque, it's a women's centre.
Well, I think what she was trying to promote is there are different schools of thought, and she wanted to break down this whole image of a masjid or a mosque where, you know, it's culturally related to somebody or,
Patriarchy,
you know,
yeah.
socio-economic group. And so she wanted a safe place for women to go
place,
to.
Oh, the
So
safe place. Milo Yiannopoulos talks a lot about these safe places, doesn't he?
The reason why I was trying to disagree with what you were saying, Ruby, is I think in Islam as well, there are so many things that the women are restricted to doing in the leadership role because of their gender. So, for example, when
So
about
many?
witness,
So like-
no, like okay, maybe not so many, but if you need a witness and the witness is female, I think you need two rather than
again, we'll give
one,
it to
yeah.
the scholar because if I
Yeah,
said
but
something,
there's a
don't
reason
want to
for
come in.
that.
Yeah.
There is a very good reason for that, which the scholar will be able to
Yeah.
explain much more
Yeah.
eloquently.
And in my opinion, it is down to us females, the way that we are made. I think.
Okay. Okay, I just want to say that I have in the past been told that I am too soft as a person.
And that is how we're made. Women are usually
I know,
softer.
but femininity is seen as a weakness. Softness is seen as a weakness. And I've been told, and many other women as well have been told, that they have to kind of man up or butch up if they're going to survive. And this was the case with a particular professor in New York who said to women who wanted to work in Wall Street and all these investment banks that if you want to survive in this male-dominated world, you have to become manly. What if you can't? I try it. I last a day or two trying to be like butch.
But why
And then
would
I
you go
go
to that
back.
I feel
profession?
if
What? Butch meaning taking on masculine
Well,
characteristics.
why not be yourself?
Because you'll be told you're too soft.
But it has to start from somewhere.
But
If
I
we
feel
all took
that's
on the roles that
that's
people
the
said we couldn't do.
platform that, that's the platform where this Women Mosque of America. So they're not competing with existing mosques. They're actually complementing them. That they will give you the skills to lead, and you can go back to your own mosque and then take up those roles as chances come, as opportunities come. Take up the roles, and so that you're on. Because if women are empowered, they will empower other women.
Yes,
Yeah,
and that's what I wanted
I
to
agree.
get to before I attack Nishant. With the question of, do we feel that we get almost cliquey with the women who are very go out there and achieve compared to the women who
Okay.
are more passive or more don't want to
Soft.
take on
Soft.
roles? Do we feel that there's some kind of conflict between those two
No
type
conflicts.
of?
I think there should be balance. I think you can't just be as a woman because of how you're made. You can't just be somebody who wants to go get there and not be soft and have that nurturing qualities.
No, but what she's trying to say is that if I choose to be a housewife and stay at home and do, or maybe volunteer in the mosque or something like that, am I, looking down upon the woman who's going out to work and say, oh,
That's
you know
what
what?
I'm saying.
You know what?
No,
You
it
can't
works
take care
the
of your
other way.
children.
It works the
Because-
other way. When I have taken the last few years, quite a few years, off work. I've just worked part-time to raise my children.
And that's
When-
absolutely.
Yeah, but when I've told people in a social situation that I'm a stay-at-home mum and that my full-time job is being a mum, they've looked at me like I've crawled out from underneath a stone.
I admire you for that.
Thank you very much. But the general perception is that, oh, she can't hack it out there in the world of work. She's going to stand and stay behind her kids and take the easy way out and stay at home. The reason I worked part-time was so I could have a break from child rearing, so I could have a cup of coffee and talk to other adults in the office that I worked in.
And that's the choice she's made.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely fine. I don't think
But
as women you should look down upon a woman if she chooses to either stay at home.
You should look up to them.
Yeah, you should encourage them. In either case, you should encourage your fellow sisters. If they're they want to look after their kids, you should encourage.
I think what really grates at me, especially in the Muslim community, is that we almost have this idea that we have to be clones. If somebody does something and they're like the nice sister who's really friendly, then we should all follow her. But we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know what her passion is. We don't really allow for individuality because it's scary to us. So if you get a woman who is more educated than her male counterpart in the Muslim community, who is more experienced, who's been studying this, that and the other, who has children and stuff, a lot of the time she'll get overlooked just because of the fact that she's a woman. And that it grates. It's almost like, well, if a man can do it, wouldn't it be nicer for a male to do it? And that's what bothers me. I feel that women, as I've said before, we are leaders in a lot of the things we do. We naturally, in school, we've had to, compete for the skipping rope or whatever. We know what we need to do, and we know how to speak to people, be it males or females. It's not like we forget ourselves and we want to prove to the world that we can do everything. But we're not allowed, we don't have the opportunity to do that. Even, being on this program here, you will have a lot of sisters who will say, well, I don't think it's appropriate for women to be on TV talking. Yeah. And it's like, we're in 2017. I'm talking about subjects that we talk about behind closed doors. I'm just faced it, so why aren't you supporting it?
I agree with you on that one because I teach at the Islamic school and we used to have Salah, and we decided, because there were technical difficulties with following the male imam lead the prayers for all of us. So we decided we'll separate the Salah. We'll have the men praying in their own congregation, the females in their own congregation,
so that they could follow.
And we had so much resistance from other women saying, oh, but how can you do that? How can you know when the men are leading? How can you not, pray with them? But once we sat down and we found out, and it was one of the Masmanti Jaffa was one of the persons who said how empowering it is for women to lead prayers. And the more you encourage them, the more, for example, before that, I never used to think that if there was a congregation of women and it was Salah time, that we would just get up and pray in Jama'ah.
Are women allowed to lead congregations?
Yes, they are. To the women only, I think. And now, every time there is a female gathering, when there is no men, I always feel, there's an opportunity. Let's all pray Jama'ah namaz, we don't have to wait. Even in the home, if your father or your brother are not available, doesn't mean you can't pray in congregation. And this is just one of the examples.
I think people don't know their religion. They don't bother asking, but they're very good at just commenting.
Well, they just think it's the norm.
Doing.
Like, for example, how I thought that the daughter-in-law must and it's a wajib for the daughter-in-law to go and live with the mother-in-law. I just found out that that's not wajib.
I just wanted to also bring in the fact that, you know, if you are trying to make something of yourself, or, you know, God forbid, you have gone to uni and you do want to actually, you do want to follow a career, God forbid. Do we feel that we then look down at that woman for, you know, oh, but you have a child, doesn't, you know, Abdul Bob need you?
Children of working mothers are brighter and more intelligent than of those that don't work.
I've read similar things, but then, you know, these laws that the Islamic experts have come out with, maybe they've applied to a particular time, maybe times are moving on, maybe we need to move with those times.
I think we need to give each other a break, quite frankly.
Absolutely.
I think as
Stop judging one
women,
another.
we are always somehow being made to feel guilty if we can do one thing, or we have to make a decision to do another. I think we need to come together and say, look, if somebody's good at the job, congratulations, good on you. Maybe we'll have somebody who would want to follow her, and if somebody chooses to take another course, good on her, she's made a decision. But this having to feel guilty and, you know...
I would still prefer to sit at home though.
Good for you.
I would love to be a
And we support you for it, you know.
I'd love to be
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I worked in admin for 8 years, and part-time admin, and it was awful. And someone said to me, "But you've got a degree from this university, and now and I felt terrible."
It's rotting. Your degree is rotting away.
Oh, no. And now for our one-to-one discussion with Masooma Jaffer. My favourite part of the show is speaking with Masooma Jaffer on our one-to-one discussion. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa
I
rahmatullah.
wanted to ask you about women in leadership roles. Do you think we're doing enough to encourage girls, women, to be in public figures? And if not, is there a problem Islamically with women being in leadership roles?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding from an Islamic perspective. There is a hadith that is in Sahih Bukhari which talks about the fact that a community which has women as leaders will not be successful.
Sorry, why is that? I don't
it's a hadith that's there, and our scholars have looked at the hadith and the chain of narration, and they have said that there is a problem with the chain of narration, so this hadith cannot be accepted as authentic. So from our scholars, from the Shia perspective, we've been told that there is no problem with a woman taking on a leadership role at all, as long as her hijab is maintained, her physical hijab, her social hijab is being maintained. There's no problem with it at all.
And when you say, can we elaborate on the social hijab thing? Because sometimes we just think, you know, if we're dressed in a modest way, that's all we need. And obviously we're not going to go around acting in a lewd way, I would hope, but this concept of social hijab.
Okay, so the ruling is that there should be no unnecessary interaction. Who decides that? You as an individual.
Oh, great. So I decide what is unnecessary. So if after work we've been to a conference for 20 hours and I want to have a meal with my team that happen to be males, it's fine.
If you feel it is necessary.
We're hungry, there's not a lot of hotels open, we need to find a restaurant.
Again, if you feel it is necessary from the perspective of team building, from the, or even, and even when you are in that meal situation, the interaction that happens, it has to be necessary interaction, not unnecessary. So you can't be sitting there laughing and joking and just, being very free. There has to be a barrier there, there must be an obvious sort of social barrier to say, look, I'm a Muslim woman. There is only, so far you can sort of, you need to respect me.
But that's one of the problems, because we do come across standoffish. I can just picture myself with the menu wide up and looking over saying, oh, sorry, don't laugh, don't joke, but can we just have our dinner and go, please?
No, I don't think you have to sit there and blatantly say, don't laugh, don't joke, sort of thing. But I think it's how you come across. I mean, you have to realise that there has to be, there has to be a barrier there. You can't, just because you're dressed a certain way, doesn't mean, okay, now I can do whatever I want and say whatever I want and behave in the way I want.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, and I was thinking about this a lot, if you think about it, we as women have a biological clock in us, okay?
Yeah.
We this is just my perception. I was just thinking about it, and I was thinking, how, I don't know, it's just, I do a lot of thinking, which maybe is not a good thing.
To think.
And I was thinking, you know what, we need, I think it's innate in us to try to attract the opposite sex, and we do things without even realizing. Sometimes like for example, my husband will say, sometimes I'll say something or I'll laugh a certain way, and he'll say to me, that looks really sort of provocative, and I'm not meaning to be at all.
You're just being yourself and in
Well,
a
no,
relaxed...
and I think and I think because it's innate in us to sort of try to, God's put that in us. Then we have to be careful, and we have to realize that we may be doing it without even realizing that we're doing it, and that's why this ruling is there, that just be aware that you don't need to have more interaction than that is what is necessary.
Do you feel that we've made enough progress to encourage women to be in leadership roles or in positions where you need to make certain type of decisions in the Muslim community?
Within our centre, we have a leadership development program, where it's very encouraged for the women to actually go to, and where they learn about themselves, they learn the sort of person they are, they learn about politics and the different types of way politics is used, power and things like that.
But where is that going to lead them to, other than it's great to have development, but are they going
to... But it gives you that confidence to then maybe go towards something that you feel passionate about. As women, we generally do take up leadership roles within our own house. We're the ones who usually decide how the children are going to be brought up, what schools they go to, what they wear, and usually it's the mother who does all of these. How the house is run, what sort of decor the house has. We do take up leadership roles, and we're very good at it within our own houses. So why would we not be good at it in the wider community? It's a matter of whether I feel passionate about it, whether I want to do it. And whether there's a need for me to do it, and that are the questions I need to ask myself.
Do you think that you are supported by other women? I just want to put in my experience. When I'm in certain situations that require me to lead, say work or whatever, I find that a lot of the time, and this might just be a general phenomenon, I don't get any support from the sisters generally.
In what way? What support are you looking for?
Just moral support, encouragement. Maybe it's a thing that there's a little bit of envy, maybe there's a little bit of, well, I don't feel comfortable that you should be doing that. I've had a couple of sisters saying to me, I just mean in general, I don't mean in an Islamic context, but you're taking away the prospect of a man being put in that role and making a living for his family. And I was really shocked, because that came from a Muslim woman. I was like, well, instead of you being supportive and saying, oh, maybe someone else, you're making a position for someone else, it was, well, now some poor man is not going to be able to feed his family because you've taken his role.
I think the hadith of the Holy Prophet comes in very apt here, where 70 excuses before you judge the sister. Maybe her husband's out of work and he's not able to get a job, and maybe she's looking for anyone and everything to blame, except for the fact that her husband's not got a job. I honestly don't think there's a problem with it, and I think as women, I would feel proud if a sister, took on a role. I don't think I could do certain roles. I don't like being out in the public and,
But here you are.
Again, I think it's, if I feel passionate about something and I feel that it's going to have, it's going to make a difference in people's lives.
And if there's a need.
Yes, exactly.
Do you feel, what are you most proud about in your particular community in terms of how far women have come across? What are you most proud about there?
I think the fact that I think that it is actually encouraged for the women to take on roles. I mean, we've got women in the EC now. You know, we have, you know, women running their own programs, and, you know, they're quite vocal. I mean, the chair lady decides how the women's side of the program's going to run, and the men don't have a say in it. And, you know, even when the youth are doing it, they have their own, you know, women, you know, the girls who will decide how the program's going to run. We have Stanmore Jaffrey's sports. Like the men, you know, the boys do their own sports, the girls do their own sports, and it's run by the youth, and they've taken on the role of leadership, and they're running it, and it's so successful. And it's beautiful to see how they're doing it.
Put you on the spot. Do you think women do it better than males do? Are we more?
I think women do everything better than men, generally.
Mashallah, you heard that from her mouth, inshallah. I'm really encouraged by what you're saying. I really do hope the youth pick up, especially the young girls pick up, and like yourselves, you set such a high example. I'm sure there'll be many sisters to follow you. I've really enjoyed this episode. I hope you have too, and I hope you feel invigorated and encouraged. I hope to see you on the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.